You've probably noticed it. The ones who used to shine the brightest, the ones who once laughed the loudest, they're fading, not gone, just quietly stepping out of the picture. It's not because they've lost hope. It's not because life has defeated them. It's because awareness changes everything. When you see too much, you can't unsee it. You notice the emptiness behind people's smiles. You catch the bitterness behind casual conversations. You feel the weight of the world in ways others don't. And suddenly, small talk feels like noise. Crowded rooms feel like poison. What once felt normal now feels unbearable. That's the burden of seeing too much. It strips away the illusion of belonging. And when the illusions fall, you can't return to who you were before. So they start to withdraw. Not with drama, not with anger, but with silence. They disappear into corners no one notices. They choose solitude over shallow connection. They choose quiet nights over loud distractions. They choose truth over performance. And here's the part few understand: it's not loneliness they're after. It's protection, because once your soul wakes up, you realize how fragile it is in the wrong places. How easily the light can be drained by a world that feeds on pretense. So they vanish, not because they don't care, but because they care too deeply. Yet society doesn't understand. Society looks at silence and calls it weakness. It looks at stillness and calls it failure. It looks at detachment and calls it arrogance. But they don't see the truth behind the choice. They don't see that stepping back is an act of strength. That disappearing is not giving up, it's growing up. You see, disappearing isn't running away. It's transformation. It's the shedding of an old skin. It's the quiet work of becoming, like seeds buried in the dark, waiting for spring, like fire glowing beneath the ashes, waiting to rise, and that's where their power lies. In the silence, in the stillness, in the refusal to perform for a world that forgot how to feel. So if you've been disappearing, hear this: you're not broken, you're not lost, you're not behind, you're evolving. You're protecting the parts of you that the world doesn't deserve to touch yet. One day, your silence will speak louder than words. One day, your stillness will carry more weight than any performance. One day, your quiet disappearance will be understood for what it truly was: the beginning of your becoming. There comes a point when your eyes open wider than before. Not in some dramatic flash, but in quiet moments when truth slips through the cracks. You start noticing things you never paid attention to. The way people speak without meaning what they say. The way conversations circle around nothing. The way most smiles never reach the eyes. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. That's the hardest part. Awareness doesn't ask for your permission. It just arrives, and with it comes a weight you never carried before. You begin to feel the hollowness behind the noise, the endless scrolling, the constant chatter, the desperate search for distraction. It all looks different now, almost transparent. And instead of feeling entertained, you feel tired. Tired of pretending it still matters. It doesn't mean you think you're better. It doesn't mean you judge others. It just means you can no longer play the game with the same blind devotion. Because now, you know the rules are designed to keep everyone asleep. You see it at work. The way people compete for recognition, yet feel empty when they get it. You see it in relationships. The way love is replaced with performance, with appearances, with fear of being alone. You see it in society. The way success is measured by exhaustion, not fulfillment. And suddenly, you can't celebrate what everyone else is chasing. That's the burden of awareness. It isolates you. It makes you feel like you're carrying a truth that nobody asked for. Nobody wants to hear. You can't go back to ignorance, yet you can't fully explain what's shifted inside you either. So you walk through familiar places, feeling like a stranger, surrounded but unseen, and it hurts because you remember when it was easier. You remember when you could laugh without analyzing, when you could believe the story without questioning it, when the surface was enough. But that time is gone now, and pretending would feel like betrayal. This is why awareness feels heavy, because it strips away illusions that once gave comfort. It forces you to sit with reality as it is: raw, messy, imperfect. It forces you to admit how much of life is built on escape. And once you've seen the escape, you can't join it the same way again. You notice it in your body, how crowded places drain you, how forced conversations feel like weight, how gossip or complaining leaves you aching inside. You start pulling away, not because you don't care, but because you care too much. Your soul knows what it costs to stay in that energy, and yet this burden is not a curse. It's the beginning of a deeper kind of freedom. Because when illusions fall, something else takes root. Clarity. Clarity about what matters. Clarity about who you are when no one is watching. Clarity about what your spirit can no longer settle for. But before that clarity feels empowering, it feels exhausting. Because at first, you see only the emptiness. You see the lies. You see the endless cycle of distraction. And you wonder if you'll ever feel at home in this world again. This is why so many who wake up seem distant. Why they become quieter, softer, more reserved. Not because they've lost their spark, but because they've outgrown what used to light them. And that shift, while painful, is proof of transformation. The burden of seeing too much is not meant to crush you. It's meant to strip away what no longer deserves your energy. It's meant to guide you back to something real, and though it feels lonely, you're not truly alone. Many carry this same weight, silently, in different corners of the world. Awareness doesn't separate you from life. It separates you from illusion. It makes you question. It makes you pause. It makes you demand more from yourself and from the world around you. And yes, it hurts. It can feel unbearable at times, but it is also the doorway. The doorway into a life where truth matters more than performance, where presence matters more than appearances, where love matters more than validation. That's the gift hidden inside the burden. It doesn't take you backward. It takes you deeper. And if you can hold it, if you can endure it, it will reshape you, not into someone who fits the world better, but into someone who no longer needs to. When the weight of awareness becomes too heavy, something inside shifts. You start choosing silence over noise, distance over chaos, stillness over performance. It's not that you stop loving people. It's not that you stop caring. You just realize how much of yourself gets lost when you stay in the wrong spaces. And so, without making an announcement, without telling anyone what you're doing, you begin to step back. At first, people don't even notice. You skip a few gatherings. You stop replying as quickly. You stay quiet in conversations where you once filled the air. On the surface, nothing looks different, but inside, a new choice is being made. You're protecting your spirit because you've learned how fragile it is in the wrong environments. You've learned how easily your energy can be drained by people who confuse complaining with connection. How quickly your peace can be shattered by conversations that never go deeper than appearances. And so you retreat, not with anger, not with bitterness, but with love for yourself, with respect for the parts of you that need space to breathe. Withdrawal becomes a form of survival, not running away, but pulling yourself into a place where you can actually hear your own voice again, where you can separate what's yours from what's been projected onto you, where you can rebuild what the world keeps trying to tear down, and it's quiet there, painfully quiet at times, because the silence that protects you also confronts you. It forces you to face your own shadows, your loneliness, your doubts, the parts of you that you once kept hidden by staying endlessly busy. That's why most people never choose it, because silence reveals everything noise can cover, and it's uncomfortable to sit in that space. Uncomfortable to admit how much of your old life was a distraction. Uncomfortable to realize how much healing you've avoided. But once you taste that silence, once you feel its honesty, it becomes hard to go back. Because in silence, you begin to recover your strength. You begin to understand your own patterns. You begin to realize how often you bent yourself just to be accepted. And for the first time, You no longer want to bend. The world sees your absence as weakness. It doesn't understand why you're quieter, why you're slower to engage, why you no longer show up everywhere. But what they don't see is that your absence is deliberate. It's the choice to value your soul over their expectations. You're not withdrawing because you're broken. You're withdrawing because you're healing, because you're tired of performing, because you've finally learned that peace isn't found in crowds, but in alignment. And so the retreat continues, one choice at a time, less time scrolling, more time breathing, less time trying to explain, more time listening inward, less time in spaces that feel hollow, more time in places that feed your spirit. It feels like disappearing, but it's not disappearance. It's preservation. It's transformation in motion. It's the slow reclaiming of a life that belongs to you. And yes, people may question it. They may call you distant. They may say you've changed, and they're right, you have. But what they don't see is that this change is necessary. Because you can't carry awareness and stay the same. Withdrawal is not the end of connection. It's the beginning of real connection. The kind where you don't have to shrink yourself. The kind where silence is not feared, but shared. The kind where you don't have to perform just to be seen. Until then, you protect your spirit in solitude. You learn to honor your limits. You discover that stepping away is not weakness, but wisdom. And though the world may misread your retreat, you know the truth. You're not disappearing from life. You're disappearing from illusion. When you step back, when you choose silence over noise, people notice. Not everyone, but enough to make you feel it. And the truth is, most won't understand. They see your quiet as weakness. They see your stillness as failure. They see your distance as arrogance because they only know how to measure life by visibility, by how loud you are, by how busy you are, by how much you produce for the world to consume. And when you don't play by those rules, you're marked as strange. As if something must be wrong with you. As if pulling back is proof that you've lost your way. But here's what they don't realize: pulling back is the way. Silence is not emptiness. Stillness is not surrender. Distance is not rejection. They're choices, conscious, deliberate, necessary choices. But society has never known how to honor those choices. It glorifies speed. It glorifies noise. It glorifies the appearance of progress, even when that progress is hollow. And so anyone who resists, anyone who slows down, anyone who refuses to perform becomes a target for misunderstanding. It can be painful, because deep inside, you're not trying to separate yourself. You're not trying to appear better. You're simply trying to protect your soul, and yet the very act of protecting yourself is seen as rebellion. People start saying, "You've changed," and they mean it as criticism. They say, "You're so distant now," as if closeness is only measured by constant availability. They whisper, "You don't seem the same anymore," and in a way, they're right. You're not the same, and you're not supposed to be. But when you're misunderstood, it stings. It makes you question yourself. It makes you wonder if maybe they're right. Maybe silence really is weakness. Maybe distance really does mean you've failed. Maybe stillness really is laziness. That's the trap, the temptation to shrink yourself back into their version of normal, to rejoin the noise so they feel comfortable again, to prove your worth by exhausting yourself, but deep down, you know that's not your path anymore. Because every time you tried to live by their approval, you lost yourself. Every time you gave up your silence to be accepted, you drowned in their chaos. Every time you forced yourself into their rhythm, you betrayed your own. So now you sit with the misunderstanding, you learn to let them mislabel you, because their judgment says more about them than about you. They fear what they don't understand. They mock what they secretly crave. And they resist what they're not ready to face in themselves. The truth is, society doesn't know how to honor inner transformation. It only knows how to celebrate outer performance. And when your growth takes place in silence, when your healing is invisible, they call it disappearing. But that's only because they can't measure it. They can't see the battles you've fought in the dark. They can't see the peace you're building one choice at a time. They can't see the strength it takes to walk away from what you've outgrown. So they misunderstand, and that misunderstanding becomes part of the path. It teaches you not to live for their validation. It teaches you to hold your ground even when they question you. It teaches you that strength is not always recognized, but it doesn't stop being strength. Because here's the truth: quiet is not weakness. Stillness is not failure. Distance is not arrogance. They are signs of alignment, signs of courage, signs that you are no longer living to please a world that doesn't know how to love itself. And while the misunderstanding may feel isolating, it's also clarifying. It shows you who sees you for real and who only valued your performance. It reveals who can sit with your silence and who only needed your noise. It separates the genuine from the conditional, and that's a painful gift, but a gift nonetheless. So yes, society may mislabel you. It may misunderstand your stillness, but your stillness is not for them. Your silence is not for them. Your retreat is not for them. It's for you. It's for your becoming, and the ones who are meant to understand will. Disappearing doesn't mean giving up. It doesn't mean running away. It doesn't mean you've lost your strength. It means you've redirected it, because sometimes the loudest growth happens in silence. Sometimes the deepest healing takes place in absence, and sometimes stepping out of the world's gaze is the only way to step fully into yourself. When you pull back, you're not vanishing into nothing. You're retreating into becoming. You're not erasing yourself, you're rewriting yourself. Slowly, quietly, deliberately. The world thinks power is about noise, about proving, about showing up everywhere at once, but real power is different. Real power is the ability to disappear and still hold yourself together. Real power is not needing to be seen to know you exist, not needing validation to know you matter. That's the quiet power of disappearing. It's not weakness, it's mastery. It's the decision to stop performing, to stop exhausting yourself for applause that never truly fills you, to stop chasing places where your soul doesn't belong. Disappearing gives you space, space to hear your own voice again, space to rebuild your inner foundation, space to remember who you are beneath the layers of expectation. And in that space, something changes. Your energy shifts. Your clarity deepens. Your strength returns. You begin to see how much of your old life was lived for others, and how much of your new life must be built for you. It's not easy. The silence can be heavy. The loneliness can sting, but in that solitude you find treasures that the crowd can never give you. You find resilience, you find self-trust, you find the courage to walk alone when the path demands it. The world may not notice this transformation at first. They'll say you're distant, they'll say you've disappeared, they'll say you're no longer the same, and they'll be right. You're not the same. You've become something deeper, stronger, quieter, but unshakable. It takes strength to speak, but it takes even greater strength to be silent. It takes courage to fight, but it takes even greater courage to walk away from battles that no longer matter. It takes faith to be visible, but it takes even greater faith to know your worth without an audience. That's what disappearing really is. It's faith. Faith in your process. Faith in the unseen growth happening beneath the surface. Faith that one day your silence will make sense. Think of seeds. They vanish into the soil. Buried, forgotten, invisible, but they're not gone. They're preparing. They're breaking open. They're becoming something the world has never seen before. That's what your disappearance is, a season of becoming. A quiet transformation that doesn't need to announce itself. Because true growth doesn't shout. It whispers. It moves slowly, patiently, beneath the surface. And when the time is right, it emerges, stronger, wiser, unshakable.